Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Sutton Broadbent Lounge. Well, it's not been a quiet week at Swindon Town. It never is. Amongst pre-season friendlies, away kit launches, and the opening of new facilities, there were some pretty major changes and appointments made too. We have a new head of football in the form of Jamie Russell. Many of you may know Jamie from his outstanding work with Swindon Town's youth team over the last 18 months, leading a team that has bared fruit in the form of Anton Dvorak, Abu Kanu, Sonny Hart, but to name a few. Jamie also has a wealth of experience within the game, having previously spent time at Salford City, Everton and West Brom. But this is the big one. This is the head of football at the mighty Swindon Town. We're delighted to say that the man himself is joining us this evening to discuss his new appointment and what it means for Swindon Town. Jamie, welcome to the lounge. Thank you for coming on. How are you doing?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming on, mate. I'm sure it's been a very busy week, so we're glad you found time to fit us in.
It's been non-stop as usual, but been really enjoyable so far.
Happy days, happy days. Well, before we get into some questions, mate, I've got a panel of our illustrious Tom Broadbent Lounge regulars with me as well. So I'll introduce you to those first before we get our teeth stuck into the questions. So, Chris, how you doing, Chris?
Not too bad, Joe. Not too bad.
Happy days.
And yourself?
Yeah, not bad, mate, not bad. So, Chris, meet Jamie. Jamie, meet Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Jamie.
Happy days. We also have with us the one and only Rockin' Robin, aka Malcolm. Malcolm, how you doing, mate? Rockin' Robin, you're on mute. Okay, we'll move on from Mal, shall we? Ellis, say today, mate.
Yeah, great start to the show. This is Jamie. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm great, thank you. Buzzing for this show.
Happy days. We also have a debut in the house with Carly. So, Carly, welcome to the lounge.
Hi, thank you.
That's right. You excited to be on?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to tonight's show.
Happy days. Happy days. Well, let's get into some questions. So, Jamie, obviously, I suppose a lot of Swindon Town fans have been reading the statement that was put out yesterday with regards to your appointment. So, head of football at Swindon Town, can you just give us a lowdown on sort of what your new role is about and what it incorporates?
Yeah, so pretty much it's it's aligning everything through the club. So all the strands from sports science, medical, player care, recruitment, technical programs, philosophies, strategies, operations. I feel over the last probably 3 or 4 years, I think it's been a little bit disjointed. Whereas now the whole idea is to basically bring someone in, so as me, that's almost kind of center of a circle, if you can imagine that, and then almost like a wheel. You'd have, for me, it's really important to work closely with the manager, to work closely with Alex Pike, who's the academy manager, to work closely with the women's manager, Mike Cook, to work closely with recruitment, so Les Caffrey, Martin Doyle and Tommy Canlon, who work within the academy, to work with Bailey Coupland, who's now head of football in terms of operations. So he's in terms of the head of football operations. So we're trying to streamline everything across the club now. So it's very much a one club identity. So everything in terms of operations and logistics, Bailey's aware of it. To obviously be around the budgets. So that would be with Rob, the CEO, and obviously the chairman, Clem. To work closely with Gavin around the loans programme, and try and look at that bit of a Grand Canyon that we've got between the academy and the first team and how we can get around that. And then obviously finally to work with player care and safeguarding to make sure that across the club we're covering ourselves and supporting the boys in the best possible way, and obviously the women and the girls on the women's side of the programme.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't like to be in charge of your email inbox. I bet you get flooded on the daily.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously this is quite a broad role for yourself. How does it sort of stand up to what you've been doing, at Salford, Everton, West Brom? Because I understand was it youth team coaching, youth team development in those roles?
Yeah, but from an elite, like with the EPPP, so the elite player performance plan that was brought in. So when that was brought in when I was at West Bromwich Albion, so it was the first year of that where the categorisation came in. So prior to that, it was centre of excellence. and then it went into academy structure, and then it went into academy like status, so categorization of your academy, which basically came around because all the bigger teams were starting to take from the smaller teams, and there was like no compensation and different things like that. So from a smaller club, it was like, well, what's the point in us working really hard? What's the point in us developing our players for, you know, like a Southampton or a Liverpool to come and take our player? So as part of the EPPP, it brought in the compensation rulings. So they were standardised from the foundation phase, which was 9 to 11, then from 12 to 16, and then obviously from 18 upwards. So that gave a lot of protection to the smaller clubs, and gave a lot. It was a lot more it was worth your while working and developing players, because not only could you develop a player for your first team, but you could also, if needs be, you would get the money that you were owed for in terms of the training compensation, instead of just losing another player. So when the EPPP came in, pretty much everything I've just spoke about there is what you end up doing. And I don't think there's enough people that really fully understand the importance of an academy and the amount of hard work that goes into being an academy. So in terms of earning my stripes at academy level, I've worked with the under-6s, dealing with snotty noses and tying up shoelaces. Then working with 18s, where you're still doing the same job sometimes, but like the foundation phase, so you're going from 9s to 12s. I've led those phases, then obviously going into 12s to 16s, so being a coach, working around the 11v11 game, then leading the phase, which is completely different again. So you're managing coaches, you're managing the programme, then obviously going into 18s. And then when I was at Everton, I was around the 21s, so that was a great experience. You know, playing teams like Villarreal and different things like that. So you're dealing with different things as well as just a normal academy programme. To then going into Salford, which was to set up an academy from absolute scratch with nothing in place. So all of these things, these areas, safeguarding, player care, S&C, medical, technical programme, coaching philosophy, what your strategy is, what you're going after, your recruitment department, how you recruit, is pretty much, this is just another layer on what I've actually been doing for probably the last 15 years.
Well, I mean, yeah, certainly an impressive CV on paper, isn't it? Though, I suppose the biggest difference, I guess, is moving into that sort of having the first team under your wing of a football league club. So a lot of the questions we were sort of asking from the statement was, you know, how will your dynamic with Mike Flynn work? How is the just as a first team bracket? How does that sort of work under your wing?
So the manager's in charge of the recruitment, and he was brought in as a manager. So I think that was, you know, a good appointment from the club, just to kind of steady the ship, really. So we've had heads of coaching. This time around, it was a manager. But I've got a real good, open and honest relationship with the manager. I've only, obviously, from coming back from Australia, I've only seen him for the last 10 days, but everything so far has been really good. We're in constant dialogue, especially around the young players, how they're getting on. I know from his past at Newport, and also from Warsaw, because I know boys that he gave debuts to at Warsaw, that he will give young players an opportunity to play, but they have to be good enough. And this is the thing, you know, if you get a young player on the pitch, it's not just a given. They have to work for it, and they have to show that to the manager that they've got some quality to actually pull on that Swindon shirt and represent the club on the pitch.
Absolutely. I mean, the guys will back me up here. Last week we had a segment on the show just going through a few of the young players that made an appearance away at Supermarine. So you've obviously got the likes of Anton Dvorak, who I know that a lot of people at the football club are really, really proud of and really excited for. The likes of Abu Kanu. I mean, Abu Kanu is one I was going to ask you, actually. Was he there at during your time at West Brom? Was he a player that you were aware of?
So we crossed paths at West Brom.
Okay.
So I was literally within that year going to Everton as he was coming in. But there was a lot of Category 1 clubs that were courting him at an early age, and we were looking at him. You know, obviously you've just mentioned Anton. Anton's done, you know, fantastic since I've been here. In his second season, we put him with a host family because of the commute from Reading. So we just felt, as a group of staff, we felt it would be the right thing for him to spend more time on his football than worrying about catching a train in the morning and doing all of that. So all that extra work behind the scenes, like I say, with the player care, with the safeguarding, with the coaching program. You know, Lee Peacock sitting down and speaking with him, Sean Wood speaking with him, that have been here for years and seen his full journey. I've been lucky enough to come in and kind of see the last part of his journey out of the academy and into the professional environment. And Anton's just been an absolute joy to work with. He's one of the first ones in. He's always drinking water. He's foam rolling. He sets himself high standards. He takes himself away from the group to really fully focus on what he wants to do. And, you know, he fully deserved his professional contract with us. Obviously, you've mentioned Sonny, Harvey Fox, who's done really well against, I think he set up the third goal on Saturday against Melksham. And then obviously we've got Harrison, who kind of like, he's almost seen as like the old academy player now, coming into his second season as a professional, but he did fantastic last season. And he's been kind of our benchmark player.
He's the poster boy. Yeah,
he is for us, because it was almost like you need that one to get in and stay in. And as soon as you get that one, then it's like, then the floodgates can kind of open a little bit, and you can get the next one, then get the next one, then get the next one. And I think from our point of view as an academy, we're really proud of obviously the work that's gone in prior to me coming here, and obviously the work that's gone in over the last 16 to 18 months. But we have a real conveyor belt now of very good players going. I mean, our under-14s group is an excellent group, and one that we've got big hopes for. But they have to be nurtured now and challenged over the next 2 to 3 years to make sure we can get them where they want to get to.
Absolutely.
Jamie, I was just going to say that as well.
Obviously, we've got this with the younger players. Is there any plans to bring sort of the reserve team in to give them a bit more of a chance at somewhere between youth and first team?
So at category 3, as an academy, you don't have, you're not in the under-21s programme. So that comes in at category 2. You're in the PL2, which is the Premier League 2 league, and obviously category 1, they have the 21s. So this is something that we've discussed now. Obviously, a B team is a big expense, and I remember when Brentford started with the B team model, it was like the fashionable thing to go, oh, we're going to go the B team route. But for the £40,000 or the £50,000 that Brentford made, it was costing £2 million to actually fund that B team with the games program that they had. All of the staff was identical from what the first team was. So you're looking at a huge budget of what we don't currently have. So for us at the minute, we've been clever with the loans program, and the loan strategy is something we're using now. Obviously, there's plans, and obviously with the Australia program, there's plans to get more funding into the academy, and that is something that we are striving to get towards the category 2, which would then naturally pick up the 21s. And as you rightly say, it gives the boys an extra 2 to 3 years in the program to fully grow, to fully mature, and also it doesn't put pressure on them.
I mean, I suppose before we move on to the Australia program, because that's something that we'd like to spend a little bit of time talking about. Just moving back to obviously the first team, we spoke about the transition of the youth team players into the first team. I think something that's been on a lot of supporters' lips in the last 48 hours is sort of first team recruitment. So you mentioned that obviously Mike Flynn has come in as a manager. He's not a head coach. He is in charge of bringing the players that he wants into his first team. He's in charge of negotiations and whatnot. But a lot of people have asked, sort of, do you have any input in terms of the first team recruitment? Do you have any input into, negotiations, scouting?
No. So with regards to that, I'll just support the manager. So if there's players that he might think that I know of from previous years, or that's come through an academy system, or if he wants me to go and watch a player, I'll quite happily go and do that and support him around that. And that's with the manager. That's my real area to support him with around that. But he's so experienced in terms of League Two. He knows that market inside out. He knows all the agents. He's already dealt with all of those. So, the last thing he needs is me coming in saying, right, you need to sign this person and this person. He's very focused and understands the strengths and areas of development for the group. And he's working really, really hard at the moment to basically fill those areas where, he thinks the group can improve.
Absolutely. I think it's one of those, isn't it? He's one of the most experienced managers at this level. It's really probably is one of the only things you can look at and go, right, regardless of whether or not you're happy of, transfer market activity, you've got a manager that knows what he's doing. So, this is a plea to everyone, please just chill out. It's July, we've
Yeah,
got
definitely.
we've got a long while to go.
I also think as well in League Two, really, like sporting directors and technical directors, I'm not sure they're actually needed when you've got a manager that's got the experience of Mike Flynn. Because you know what the sporting director would do would be more in case of when you're working with a head coach, and they would just basically they would be coaching the players, and the technical director or the sporting director would be going and finding the players.
Yeah.
Whereas the manager now is basically a little bit old school in terms of like what an old school manager used to be like, and it's really good working with him.
I think a lot of supporters over the last couple of years have probably been, crying out for a little bit for a bit of change. So yeah, it is what it is. It's a new direction the football club are taking. So just got to sort of give it time to bear fruit, really.
Yeah, I think the big thing as well around like the role that I've got is more around like the medium to long term plan of the football club to make sure that all the building blocks across those 8 areas that I spoke about at the start are developed and are functioning and are working well. And then unfortunately, the game of football, the manager's life nowadays, if they get past the season, they've done really well. Hopefully, our current manager will be here for years to come. But if he's not, everything underneath is still functioning, and it's not a complete transition and change every time a new manager comes into the door. And I think sometimes I've worked at clubs where a manager goes and suddenly everything changes. So I can remember being at Everton. We went from Alan Irvine, who was very kind of traditional English, very technical, tactical based. We then had Roberto Martinez come in, and that was a completely different shift. Then Roberto left, and we had Ronald Koeman come in. Again, a completely different shift. And from our point of view, with development and academy, it's really, really difficult because the process is 12 years from an under 9 right through. So you don't have 12 years, 10 years in football to constantly be reinventing yourself, and you don't have 2 or 3 years of wasted development time of a Spanish model or a German model or, a different philosophy. It's very important that at Swindon, we know what we are. We know what we're producing. We know how to produce. We want local boys that are really proud to put on the shirt and play at the counting ground. And that's the big thing. We want our young boys to fall in love with the club. And as much as we can, we get them to the ground. We get them on the pitch at half time, which is fantastic when they see the fans. And they're doing knee slides in front of the town end when they've scored a goal and different things like that. But that's brilliant because we want them to fall in love with the club. Because there's so many clubs around here that will try and take the best players. But if they've got that affinity to the club and they want to be here, then that's the biggest thing. And we look at Harrison, I mentioned the poster boy again there, but, he's done that full journey from 7 right the way through.
Absolutely. I think this is something that we've discussed quite a lot on the show over the last couple of years, that, Swindon Town is, factually, probably the biggest club in Wiltshire. So we've got such a reach of an entire county that we kind of feel like over the years we maybe haven't taken advantage of. Maybe in terms of whether or not we're focusing on first team matters and maybe in a way neglecting the academy a little bit. But there's such an opportunity for Swindon Town to reach into the depths of Wiltshire and really get out there and, scout. Because there's plenty of players out there, you know what I mean? There's young lads out there that have got all the potential in the world. It's just finding them.
So we've recently, obviously that's from a recruitment background, when I was at West Bromwich Albion, it's a big thing for me. You're only as good as your recruitment. And whether that's players or staff, you're only as good as your recruitment. And, we talk about young players getting opportunities, but we've got a lot of really, really good young staff that will get opportunities well to climb up the food chain or to maybe move on to other clubs because, that's where their development will take them. But in terms of our recruitment areas, we're heavily in the Gloucester area now, Cheltenham, the Forest of Dean, South Birmingham. So we're reaching out that way as well as, down towards London and across towards Bristol and just making sure that net, that fishing net is getting a little bit bigger and a little bit wider, ready to scoop up any talent that we can get to get them into the club. And obviously the younger we can get them in, obviously I talked about that affinity and that love for the club. That's the big thing that we want them to be hooked and they want to be here basically. And I fully believe the programme now is that good that they are hooked and they would want to stay here because there's so much variety within their development program.
I mean, you spoke there about, casting a wide net. Now, that's a bit of an understatement, isn't it? So we've casted that net over a few thousand miles into Australia.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Australian Academy is obviously a very exciting new thing that Swindon Town fans don't really know a lot about. So could you tell us a little bit from your side or your point of view of what the Australian project looks like?
So regarding the Australian program, it's basically to support the academy, and we talk about like category 2. That's where we want to get the academy to, because we want to be, first of all, the best category 3 within the Southwest, which I believe we're very close to being that now. And what we don't just want to hit our ceiling and stay there and let other clubs come and take our players. We're all hungry, we all want to develop, and we all want to better ourselves, and that's the same as our players. So we have to find another funding stream that's going to come in and be able to allow us to get to that category 2, because it's a lot more money. It will be a £750,000 that the club have to put in. So currently,
Wow.
that's another big chunk of money. Now, obviously, that money is from the EFL and the LFE, and that money goes towards supporting, like I said at the start, the B program, which it seems like the most easiest thing to do. Just run a reserve league, just do this, just do that. But it costs a lot of money if you're going to do it properly. Now, we could put something together and play 3 or 4 games a year, or 5 or 6 friendlies, but everyone would be in the morning doing their coaching role. Then they'd be doing the game in the afternoon. Then they're coming straight back and they're rushing, and then we're going back out and we're coaching again on the night, or there might be another game on the night. So instead of spreading ourselves really, really thin and diluting the program, it makes more sense to keep the program really, really strong for this next year, but also be setting up this program in Australia that we can start getting an income from, and that money then can come into the club and come back into the youth development.
Absolutely. I mean, having spoke to, I had a brief word with Clem a couple of days ago with regards to the Australian program, and he would like to make it known as well that obviously the money that comes from this Australian program is being directly funded back into the football club. As you say there, it's a real important stream of funding that will be completely new. So, as you say, regardless of whether or not, the academy is going to be benefiting out of it, which ultimately it will be, the funding that the football club will make from the program as well is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. And I think when obviously Clem was over in the new year, and I got to spend a bit of time with him, and we went out and built the relationships for the loan strategy, and bringing Clem around to some of the non-league grounds. Step 3, step 4 is fantastic, because they all get to see him. But myself and Bailey went out there. Personally, I can't believe how hard he works and how he juggles so many things with such a time difference. Where I really struggled for the first couple of days, but he's like on it. I mean, we were probably 3 o'clock, still jet lagged. Clem's waiting for us at 7 o'clock outside the hotel. He's like, right, we're ready to go. First meeting was at 7:15 on the first morning, and we're like, oh my god. And it was literally, it was like that for the 10 days, back-to-back meetings, meeting people, going seeing games, watching people, watching coaching sessions, speaking to, the CEO from the Australian Football League, going to meeting Mark Bosnich, who's got a real big, he's on a lot of the Australian sports programs, so he can push and sell what we're working with. So we were kind of like talking to him about what we wanted to do and why we wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the cultural aspect. So we met with Mark Bridges, who's half Indigenous, so Aborigine, and we learned a lot around that culture, which was unbelievable for myself and Bailey. And if we could bring in Indigenous young boys and girls into our program in Australia, that would be fantastic again. And since coming back, I'm kind of splitting myself at the minute between everything I'm doing here. Actually, I should have added Australian program onto that wheel at the start, because that's taking up a lot of time with morning Zoom calls and late at night Zoom calls with clubs and different people who we met out there, because it's really important now that we don't lose that momentum. And it's not just a fad, and it's not just, oh yeah, they went out to Australia and they were going to do this. we've secured a club that we're going to work with in Sydney, and we've secured a club in Melbourne that we're going to work with, and we're going to be the academy aspect of that club.
Wow.
Now, in a perfect world, we would have English people out there because the accent does help. Although I don't know if my Brummie accent helps out there, but it does really, really help. But we've chose 2 clubs, and the reason why we've chose the 2 clubs is because culturally, their values are very, very aligned with what we are, and that was the things we had all the flash clubs offering us the world, but it has to be right, and it has to be something that's a sustainable program. So when we're not around, we can trust the people to deliver it. Then going forward, we're already planning around, a cultural exchange between coaches from here going over there and vice versa, and really, really taking this program forward. And we've already, lined it up with a girls program and a women's program, a boys and a men's program. So yeah, we're really, really excited about it, but we want to make sure that we sustain the one program first and don't get too carried away, because then there would be another program in Perth that we would have. So we would have 3 programs running out there for boys and girls.
Fantastic. I mean, yeah. To be fair, it's not strange for Swindon Town to go out in different places and around the world. And Alex has done a really good job of the Karachi project. I mean, in terms of the Karachi project, have you had much to sort of to deal with that at all? Or
so we've had Zubair come over, who actually works with kids out in Karachi, and he does an unbelievable job. Gives up so much of his time. Again, lives our values. Works with groups at midnight. He was absolutely brilliant when he came over, and he was very overwhelmed with our program, as you can imagine. So he's taken a lot of the program back to Karachi. The Karachi program is not linked directly to the academy in Swindon, but in terms of cultural exchange, exploring different openings with bringing some Pakistani children over, we are looking at that. And I know Alex has been speaking around that. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just a great opportunity to sell Swindon around the world and show the good work that we're doing, and we should be really proud of what we're doing and how we're opening the doors to people from all over the world.
That's it. I think the sentence you used there, "sell Swindon around the world," is it's probably something I wouldn't have ever put together in my head about 5-10 years ago. A kid in Karachi, Pakistan, wearing a Swindon shirt is quite impressive when you think about it.
But they're wearing them in Australia.
They're in Australia as well.
And the one club that we spoke with, they want all Swindon shirts over there. They want all their younger boys and girls to be, and they want to buy the kit. They're actually bought into it. In Sydney,
Wow.
there's 50 odd people that meet in Sydney in a pub to watch the games. I know Clem's gone and met them a couple of times. When we were in Melbourne, there was a guy called Lee we met for breakfast, and I was expecting an Australian accent, and he had a full Wiltshire accent, which completely threw me. And he's lived in Australia for, I think, 10 years, but just so passionate about Swindon and really, really pushing everything. And, he was just like, I'm just so pleased you're over here. Anything you need me to support you with, just let me know. So again, like I said, Swindon is massive, I think is the song, isn't it?
Swindon is indeed massive, Mr. Russell. Never forget it as well. So obviously with having these academies, in Wiltshire, in around the world almost, something you mentioned at the start as well is, one of your main roles as well is to make the transition for youth teamers within the academies a little bit easier, making their way through the age groups and ultimately, hopefully, into the first team. So, I mean, what were your main ideas and sort of your mantra about making the transition into that first team a little bit easier? Is there anything that you do in particular to ease the lads in or the girls in?
Yeah, so obviously we've just had meetings this afternoon. So myself, Sean Wood, Bailey, Alex Pike, Gavin as well, looking at boys that are ready to go out on loan, boys that were going to stretch and challenge to go out on loan. But on the Tuesday afternoon and the Thursday afternoon, the youth team players, 17, 18, get the opportunity to work on their IDP program. So it's their individual development program. But with the staff that we've got now, so obviously you would have seen Lee Peacock from working with Lee last year, an unbelievable forward coach. He comes to life when you talk about centre forwards, and obviously for us, if we can get a goal scorer on the pitch, if we can get another Charlie Austin, if we can get a forward player that can get a cross in, can go and take someone in a 1v1 situation, can go and score a goal. They're the kind of players that are going to get bums on seats and have the fans, really happy. So we've got Gav, who's going to be working with the centre backs within the IDP program, and then obviously we've got Lee, who will be working with the centre forwards, and then Sean Wood will be working with the centre midfielders. So it will be IDP individual work, and then it will also be IDP position specific as well, which will really, really give the boys that great opportunity. And the good thing is, from speaking with the manager and working with the manager, he also works within an IDP way. So the first team players currently, last Friday, they were doing, they split off into three units as well. So again, the manager will come out and will be around that, and that will give the manager and the player a great opportunity to build a relationship, which when they go into that first team environment, then it's already a lot easier for them to go in there and perform. They haven't got to go in and think, right, I've got to impress the manager in the first training session, and I've got to try and impress everyone. Because when they try and do that, then everything won't happen. They won't pass the ball. They'll try and run the ball. They'll try and take people on. They'll probably do everything wrong and make a bad first impression. Whereas if they're already comfortable around the group, already comfortable around the manager knows what they can do, everything's a lot easier.
Absolutely. Yeah. Cool. Chris, go on, mate.
Say though, Jamie, obviously we've got a number of decent local clubs around here at various levels, and in the past we've had a decent relationship with Chippenham in terms of people going out on loan. Is that something you try and build up to make those relationships with those local clubs?
Yeah, we're constantly working with the local clubs, and this year we've had some real good success. Obviously, we've had boys go out to Chippenham previously. That's where Harrison and I think it was Harry Parsons went out to Chippenham. But yeah, we're constantly looking at creating those links with teams. Obviously, Supermarine we've got a really good link with, and we're looking to get a couple of players out to them within the next couple of weeks. So yeah, it's something that we're constantly doing, is building relationships, and that's a big part of Gav's role now. He's getting out there and making sure that when the boy goes to the club, it's the right club for him. There's nothing worse than a player going on a loan and it's not going to suit the player.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, Harry Parsons was at my local, Farnborough, last year. So quick plug for Farnborough. Any players you want over there, get them over for the promotion push. So obviously, we touched on your previous work at Everton, West Brom, Salford earlier on. So is there anything from those sort of separate times at those football clubs that you've really taken on board and you've sort of brought to Swindon, having used previously and seen some success with those ideas?
I would say from West Bromwich Albion, we were very, very technical based. Yeah. So it was a very, very technical curriculum. And you look at the players it's produced. So like Louis Barry, I had at under nines.
What player?
A lad called Tim Iroga-Boonham, who was on loan last season at QPR. Mm-hmm. He came through that programme. Bradley Young, Izzy Brown, who was taken by Chelsea, Jerome Sinclair. I mean, the list just goes on, and they came through a very, very technical-based programme. And I suppose I'm a little bit more old school around the technical capability. So a technical player really, really excites me. If they can receive on the back foot, lift their eyes, look to play forward. How we want to be at Swindon, we want to be possession based, and if you're going to be possession based, you have to be very good at receiving the ball and passing the ball. They're fundamentals, and that's one of the things that I brought in within the academy was a key skills program, and to make sure that all the boys every 6 weeks they have the opportunity to run with the ball, to pass the ball, to dribble the ball, to work on ball protection and turning. Because I think within academies we're very, very good at taking a super skill, a super strength of a boy and changing him and turning him into a robot. And if you've gone out and watched a boy play grassroots football and he's a fantastic dribbler, there is no point taking that super strength away and trying to make him into a passer. You can get him to understand when to run the ball and when to pass the ball, but don't take his super strength away from him, because in years to come, that might be the thing that gets him over the line and gets him on the pitch. So with our key skills, we're very, very clear that every boy will work on each key skill over a 6-week block. They will have covered all of the key skills. And that's one of the things, because otherwise, sometimes within a coaching program, for everyone who's a coach out there, you always have your favorite session. You always have something that you think works well. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's your go-to all the time. And it can be quite repetitive, and it only develops the boys in that area.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's the main thing, isn't it? You don't want a team full of players that are very, very good at one thing. You want that versatility. You want that sort of utility, almost like team. So, I mean, there are a lot of players that have come through the Swindon Academy that maybe, I think, the past 5-10 years, you've had a team that's maybe quite good possession based. It's a bit like the back, or there's always been a bit of a downside. But I think a lot of the players that are coming through at the minute, especially when we listed a few earlier on in Dvorak, Carnu, Hart, you can shove Brown into that as well. They seem to be very good all-rounders in pretty much most positions. Sonny Hart strikes me as a sort of lad that you can put him, centre-back, left-back, centre-mid, strike, and he's probably going to do a job for you, which is a credit to you guys, in the academy coaching side.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that we want to get into the boys, that technically they can manage the ball and they can play in, I always think it's really important that they can play in 2 positions.
Yeah.
Because it gives them obviously double the opportunity to be a professional. So back in the day, it used to be full back and centre mid were quite popular, or as a number 9 or as a 7 or an 11, and that's the work now that Lee will be doing with the boys, the forward players. Are they wide attacking forwards, or are they actually number 9? So like a Louis Barry, for instance, he's not really a number 9 for me. He's a wide attacking forward that will come in off the line. Yeah, and that skill set is completely different to being a 9. Although Louis would probably think he is a number 9. For me, he's very much.
He'd back himself anywhere on that pitch.
Yeah, he would definitely back himself. But I think how Ben Garner played him was the right way. As a wide attacking forward to come in off the line and cause problems.
I mean, that front three of, anyone on the panel can back us up here. The front three of McCurdy, Davison, and Louis Barry, it was destined to take us up, wasn't it?
Had everything, didn't it?
Should have been the one. Should have been the one. We've got a comment here from Stirlingshire Reds. He's just left a comment saying, very interesting and broad role that Jamie has described, but quite hard to pin down what success will look like. How will he know he's made a positive impact, and what metrics will he measure his performance with?
So success, obviously within an academy setup and within here, is it can look in different ways. It can look as winning a league.
Yeah.
It can look as getting a professional contract. It can look as getting the ball on the first team pitch and getting minutes within the first team. It can be selling a player and making money out of that player. So in terms of success, we've got strategies across our pillars of what success looked like for those different areas. And like you said, it's very, very broad. Success will be completely setting up this program in Australia and having a revenue stream coming in. That will be success. Yeah. So in terms of what I'm doing, keeping all the players safe and making sure that they've got a good player care program, again, that is success as well. So like I said, it is very broad, but I am measured against the different areas for the success.
I suppose something that we've not touched upon massively throughout is maybe the women's side of Swindon Town. So obviously it's highly documented. The funding of the women's team has been fairly significant in terms of improvement over the last year or so. Some of the players coming into the women's side, I think Mike Cook is building a fairly strong side for the National League division. How much in terms of the women's side have you got on your plate at the minute? Do you have sort of interaction with Mike and his goings on?
So Mike's away at the moment.
Okay.
But I met with Mandy this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and we've gone through the whole program of what it looks like. But last year we were already working with the Centre of Excellence girls program.
Yeah.
So that was a real good stepping stone for us. So some of our interns and some of our S&C coaches were actually delivering the gym program for the girls Centre of Excellence program. Now we can take it up another notch, and we can start doing that across the first team, the development group, and the 18s for the women's team. So yeah, as soon as Mike gets back from holiday, it'll be myself, Bailey, Mike, Mandy sitting down and going through the strategy now, and linking the good work that's been going on in the academy and the first team, and bringing in the women's part.
So, I mean, do we have conversations with Mike and the women's side of things to bring in line the way of the style of play that we want to be portraying as Swindon Town? Do we align those two with the men's, the academies, and the women's first team and the women's academy as well? Do we try and bring those two together to sort of nurture players in a certain way?
Yeah, so we've like I said, we had that conversation this morning. So the values will be the biggest thing that will come in. So everyone across, so the academy, the first team, and the women's and the club, we're all working off the values are the most important thing to us. Then from that, then there will be the technical program, the philosophy. Will support, and obviously the last thing we want to be doing is coming in and saying, right, you need to do it like this. But what we will be saying is this has worked within the academy. And work with the coaches, and the biggest thing we have to remember is a lot of these coaches are volunteers.
Yeah.
So we have to support as full-time members within the club, and offer them great opportunities in terms of CPD, and get them on their coaching platform basically, and develop them and develop future coaches for maybe the academy, or you never know where their career could take them then.
Absolutely. I think something that really surprised us last year when we started getting involved with the Swindon Town Women's Football Club was that at the start of the season, the girls were paying subs to play, which was really quite surprising. I know that Clem was surprised when he heard that as well. So this season, obviously, we've started putting players on contracts. We're getting a fairly strong squad in terms of, as I said before, you look at the teams in the division, I'm not too sure that anyone has the funding available to them that we do. It is quite impressive, but I think it's a real big, positive thing for the community as well, isn't it? Really, it's something that girls can go and watch the women's team playing at the county ground in the FA Cup, and it's something that's quite new, and it's something that I've, over the last year, I've learned to get myself into that side of things. That I, hand on heart, genuinely, I'd never really been per se interested in women's football, but it has encapsulated me. It's grabbed me a little bit. So yeah, I mean, you guys have done a fantastic job getting that all up and running and off. So yeah, I mean, panel, you've all been a bit quiet this evening. How are we feeling? We've got any questions for Jamie that you'd like to ask? Anything burning?
I was just going to touch just on that quickly.
Sorry, mate. Yes.
From going out. Yes, from just going to Australia.
Yeah.
How big the girls program is out there.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, Sam Kerr is like a worldwide stage star these days.
Wow. Yeah, she's huge sponsorship. But I think if there's anything that myself and Bailey took from it was how big the girls and the women's program is.
Yeah.
And you talked about the Australia program. It's very strange for us because it's a rich man sport in Australia.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay to go into the academies. You have to pay quite a lot registration fees. Now in England, it's not that. It's like you said. It might be a couple of hundred a year as a grassroots club or something like that. So yeah, that big shift was something that was really interesting and a big eye opener for myself and Bailey. So because there's so much talent out there that might not be able to pay to play football, and it's getting missed out on. So again, these are things that we're looking at. Creating a pot to be able to nurture. These young players that can't afford it, and to give them that opportunity. And you never know within football and sport what can happen. And it could be one of those guys that's grateful enough to get this free sponsorship and scholarship, and you never know where it can take them.
No, it's a massive opportunity, isn't it, for anyone? But as I say, yeah. I mean, Guys, you've been very quiet this evening, my panel. Has anyone got a question burning a hole in their pocket?
Yes, I do.
Hello, Daz. How are we?
I'm very well, thank you. Finally got in, lost my Twitter account, and now refound it.
It's good to have you on, mate.
That's why it's terrible. Well, I'm an old git, that's why. Jamie, question for you. Now, you're with the academy. You teach key skills for these lads. At what point do they get taught discipline? Because when they get to the first team, that seems to get forgotten. And you get this arguing the ref. The ref ain't going to change his mind. So why do they do it? And what can you do to stamp it out? Because it really frustrates me as a fan.
Yeah, so obviously football's an emotional game, isn't it? And that whole week of working towards a fixture, and a referee can make a decision that you don't agree with. Obviously, we don't condone acting like that. So some of the stuff we'll do within the academies, we'll set up scenarios where we'll actually give decisions on purpose against the players, and just to try and get a reaction. But I go back to at the start around the player care and the safeguarding work. Sophie actually delivers the psychological program with the young players. So again, sometimes it's just coping mechanisms and being able to get over that red mist. Now, obviously, it's completely different in development football compared to when you're playing for 3 points.
Yeah, I get that.
If it's a penalty that's been given against you in the last second and it's not a penalty, then you're not just going to say, well done, referee. Do you know what I mean? That emotion
I get it.
Is going to come out. Now, obviously, like I said, it's not something we condone at the club. We don't want our players getting sent off or getting into things that they don't need to. But from a development point of view, within the academy, is something that we are fully aware of. And like I said, scenario-based situations and training sessions, we do that. We do that. But again, like I said, if it's the last second in the game and someone gives a penalty against me, I'm not sure I would be able to control my emotion either.
No, we don't. I know as a fan we don't. I know. So thank you for that, Jamie. Cheers.
That's all right.
I was about
No
to
problem.
say, if anyone doesn't take a penalty in the last minute against us at all, well, it'll be you, Dad Smith. Anyway, and he knows it. He knows it. Ellis, you haven't spoken much tonight.
Yeah.
You got a question for Jamie?
I do. Jamie, what sort of what are you most excited for this season, as in sort of as your role and for the football club in general?
Hello?
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 Oh, yeah, I lost you then. Sorry.
That's all right. Did you hear Alice's question, Jamie?
No, I didn't. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, the question was, what are you sort of most excited for in your role and in general for the season, the season ahead?
I think Ellis, you might have to leave and rejoin, mate. Ellis's question, Jamie. Sorry if you didn't hear that.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for this season at Swindon Town? So both in your role and for the football club in general, what really gets you going and gets that angst and excitement going for the start of the season?
Obviously, pre-seasons, the best bit when everyone gets back in. All the boys are back in. You see the new training kit, you see the new match kit, and all that. That's the one thing I think that everyone looks forward to every single season. But for us, it's just seeing the boys come back, seeing how much some of them have grown. We've got Redmond, who's nearly 6'4" now, who's under 18 goalkeeper, and just seeing them and just being excited about the potential of what the season could bring in terms of boys getting into the first team squad, boys getting around the first team squad, and then obviously the season for the first team, and pushing hard for promotion and looking to get out of League Two.
Good answer, absolutely. I think you said there as well, the excitement of having potential youth teamers on the cusp of making first team appearances. I can't remember a season, potentially for a good 5, maybe 10 years, where we've had as many youth teamers on the cusp of the first team as we do currently.
Yeah, no, and that's, from an academy point of view and a development point of view, that's, we're really excited about that, but also really excited about what the next layer underneath looks like, because that's just as strong. So, we know that as much as it's a headache for us sometimes, because we've got to continually challenge these players in the games program, because, we're getting boys that are under-16s that are coping with under-18s football.
Yeah.
And like we said before, it's, what's that next thing? And, we've had Harley, who couldn't play in the Wiltshire Senior Cup final because he's only 15. So we couldn't get special dispensation for him to play in the final, which for us, we were really upset with. From a development point of view, playing at the county ground under floodlights in front of fans is a huge part of his development.
Yeah.
And even pre-season, he hasn't been able to play in any of the pre-season friendlies because of his age. But he's playing under 18s football week in and week out.
Yeah.
So
it's not quite right there, isn't there? Really.
Yeah, it annoys me, and I end up getting on my high horse about it. That Arsenal can have a 15-year-old on the pitch, but we can't have a 15-year-old on the pitch in the Wiltshire Cup final. It's it doesn't weigh right to me. And the whole point of us doing that is around his development, because we know he's ready for that. Now in the 18s league, you can have an under-19 playing down. So you could have an under-19 first-year professional footballer playing down in the 18s to get game time, but he's still playing against a 15-year-old. And this is where for us, I know Bailey was working tirelessly on it, sending emails, speaking with, but if that's the rule, that's the rule, and we can't change it. So we just have to be patient and just try and find another way to make sure we continue developing him, because he's ready for that next step now. But like I said, we've got another 3 or 4 underneath him that are ready for that next step. And we had Sonny go out to Harrow Borough last year and do really, really well.
Yeah. And
this is the thing, people think these young players can't go out and do something, but if you're good enough, you're old enough.
Absolutely. I think, you mentioned it there. Just before, actually, I've just seen the time, so I won't keep you much longer, Jamie. I know you're a busy man. It's knocking on for 9 o'clock. But just a comment here I've seen from Dean McMacken. Kind of goes on from what you just said about the youth, the Wiltshire Cup final. He's just asked, are there plans for the youth team to play more games in front of fans next season?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that Clem wants as well. Obviously, in the Youth Cup, we were drawn away in the 2 fixtures. But yeah, if we can be at home, the under-17s finally it was a real shame that we were away at Lincoln.
Yeah.
And that we weren't at home. Because that would have been fantastic for the boys, and reflecting on that as a group of staff, we kind of probably wouldn't have played a final at Lincoln. We would probably put up more of a fight, but we were looking at it from a development point of view. Playing in the stadium, the whole coach journey, the pre-match meal in the hotel, and treating it like a first team fixture.
Yeah.
But getting there, it was very much like the crowd were the 12th man, and did really kind of. There's not, like I said, with some of the pre-season games and the game at Corsham on Tuesday night, where the young boys were brilliant.
Yeah,
we can't ever create that within a coaching session. We can't ever create that. The crowd and the Swindon fans were fantastic, coming out in their numbers on Tuesday night in the rain at Corsham, and it's fantastic for them to see, because we want them to be proud of what's coming through. And I think there's no better thing than seeing one of your own play for the first team, and that's what that's the buzz, and that's the thing that excites us the most about the job that we do.
No, absolutely. I think any football fan dreams of having their football club. Their star man is literally, to say, one of their own. Through the academy, he's a Swindon boy through and through, and he's netting 35 goals a season. I mean, what could get better than that?
Yeah, nothing.
Exactly.
Joe, I've got one last question, if possible.
Okay, mate. Jamie, can you hear Ellis first?
Yeah, I've got you.
Good. Right. Jamie, you can only have 1 meal for the rest of your life. What would it be?
1 meal?
Yeah.
That's a big question, that.
I know.
I'm going to go with carbonara.
Oh,
that's what I had tonight.
stupendous.
Perfect.
Lovely.
Well, to be fair, we can't let Jamie go. If you've thrown that curveball, we've got to ask him what his favourite cheese is, haven't we?
We have to.
So, Jamie, what is your favourite cheese?
Mozzarella.
Oh, that's a boring one, that is. That's a boring one. Anyway, on that note, mate, we have kept you for probably a little bit longer than I'd mentioned earlier on, so we probably should let you go, but thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, and it's been really sort of interesting to delve into your background and into your role at the football club at the minute as well. So yeah, thank you very much for coming on. We will be carrying on with some previews and some reviews of the pre-match games, the pre-season games, sorry. So you're welcome to stick around. But I also, on that note, I do appreciate that you're a very busy man, and you probably got some emails to answer from Clem or a video call at 2 a.m. with him.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
So
thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Cheers for coming on, mate.
No, thank you for having me. Thanks a lot.
Cheers, Jamie.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, everyone, thank you very much to Jamie Russell for coming on the show tonight. Real interesting look into, as you know, someone mentioned earlier on, quite a diverse head of football role at the football club. Certainly quite different to anything that I've known at Swindon Town. Certainly not a technical director. Certainly not, per se a head of first team football. It's literally any ball that is kicked in a Swindon Town shirt from a 6-year-old boy or girl through to a 33-year-old Charlie Austin, or a lad in Australia or a lad in Karachi, it comes under Jamie Russell's wing in some way, shape or form. So as I say, don't envy his outbox, his inbox or whatever.
He's certainly got a lot on his plate, hasn't he?
Oh, mate, it's pretty incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, like the stuff he was listing, the amount he's got to do. I certainly won't want his job.
Absolutely not. But spoke very well, though. I thought he was really impressive. Certainly had a lot of skin in the game. Everton, West Brom, Salford. That's not a bad CV, is it?
No, and sort of going into it, I think most people didn't really have a clue what his role was, and coming away from that, it's a lot more understanding, and I've got my head around it and can sort of understand the reason behind it.
Absolutely.
I think the Australian Academy is an interesting one because it could, bring in some players over. It's obviously a very big project, and that could be exciting. Obviously, it might be a couple of years away before we see the fruits of it, but it's certainly for the long-term prospects of the club. So it'd be good because we've had some decent players from there. Luongo, Royce Brownlee,
Maskell.
Yeah, but it's Dave Mitchell.
It's Mitchell. See, it's before my time. I said Maskell. Apologies. Yeah. Don't clip that up.
I think the whole thing is looking at elsewhere. Trying to expand on the academy recruitment. It's all going to be suits the club long term.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing as well is it was mentioned there. It's a significant income stream for the football club too that can be pumped into whether that's development of the county ground, whether that's first team recruitment, whether that's academy recruitment, staffing, coaching, whatever. It's just, it's an extra form of income. And any side in EFL, let alone just League Two, every penny is worth so much to them, isn't it?
Yeah, and sort of another big thing is it's sustainable. No matter what manager we bring in, say Michael Flynn buggers off after 2 months, we've still got that in place, which I think is really important, especially sort of as a lower league club where a lot finances are important. I mean, it is for any club, but the lower down the pyramid you are, the more the money matters. So if you've got something in place, then it's only going to help you.
Absolutely. I think it's just, as well for me, I quite enjoy the fact that Swindon technically now have a personality. They've got Swindon have got a way of playing football. They've got a way of bringing their youngsters up. They've got a philosophy of how they want to play the game and how they want to treat their staff. And it's nice to have that. I think sometimes you can feel a little soulless, being so far down the football pyramid. You sometimes feel like a little bit forgotten in a way. And obviously, we mentioned there as well, Wiltshire is such a vast area that's not really covered by any other football club. I mean, there are a few, but certainly there's no other football club with the history of Swindon Town. So it's just good to see us tapping into that and trying to make the best of that potential. So, Ellis, I mean, I've got you down here for pre-season match reviews.
Yes.
Now, were you at Melksham? And were you at Corsham?
I was at Melksham because it's my local, so it's 2 minutes down the road. But I was not at Caution.
Sounds like a cop out, that.
I know.
So, I mean, run us through Melksham, mate.
fan.
How did Melksham go?
Yeah, so very, very positive. You know, look, you got to take it with a pinch of salt. It's against a lesser side, but certainly not, you know, a Sunday League side. Melksham are an established football team, so you know it's not like we're playing nobodies, but yeah, it was a very, very enjoyable game. Got to see glimpses of how Flynn will possibly set up for the season ahead, in sort of, you know, the style of play, formation, etc. So the starting lineup for the Swindon Melksham game was Mahoney in goal, Hutton, Blake Tracy, George McEachran, Tyree Shade, Khan, Brewitt, Wakelin, Kane, Lavinia, and Austin. So looking at that, you'd probably say that's your strongest side.
You can get, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, any signings made go in there, but with the players that we've got, I'd say that's probably the strongest side you're going to get.
Yeah.
And we look good. 2-0 up at half time. The first goal come from Charlie Austin. Hutton got the ball on the right hand side. Literally drove from the back all the way to the other end. Put a lovely ball in, and Austin with a header was a classic Charlie Austin goal.
I was going to say, that's not even just a classic Charlie Austin goal. It's kind of a classic Swindon Town transition, that, isn't it? You know, Romeo Hutton picking the ball up, driving forward, whipping in one of his tasty ass crosses that he's so known for, and Charlie Austin doing Charlie Austin things.
Yeah, exactly. It was a good build-up play, and yeah, it was good to see Charlie Austin get a goal on the score sheet. Then the second goal was an absolute rocket from Blake Tracy, 25 yards out, just like a bullet, top corner. Good finish from him. And yeah, then moving on to half time, 8 changes. So Mahoney stayed in goal. Trialist A come on, which was Jordan Moore.
He's the one that is,
Taylor.
You know, he's not to be named. You can't.
Yeah, exactly. We'll come on to him later, shall we?
The one we didn't want is the one we're talking about, yeah?
Exactly. Yeah. Clayton, Shade, Fox, Hart, Kane, Brown, Dworzak, Adeloy, and Aguirre. The third goal come from Adeloy. It was a good build-up play from Harvey Fox. Took on, I think it was like 3 or 4 Melksham defenders, played it into Adeloy, and it was a tidy finish, bottom corner. You know, it was a good finish from Adeloy. Not exactly an easy goal. So I thought he'd done well there. The fourth goal come from Shade. Again, good build-up play. Got the ball from about sort of 20-25 yards out, and came in from the left, wrong-footed the keeper, and had an open goal and finished. So again, great build-up play from Shade to take on all those players, and yeah, I mean, fairly easy finish, but yeah. And then after that, we had some changes. Trialist B, also known as Danny Ward. Yeah.
Lewis Ward.
Danny, what am I on about?
We wouldn't want ex-Liverpool Danny Ward.
No,
We've got Lewis Ward.
we. Sorry, everyone. I'll tell you why I got that, because I was reading the next one. Danny Gonzalez.
Oh, there you go. You're looking ahead.
That's why. Yeah, and Josh Keys come on. That was replacing Mahoney, Jake Kane, and Shade. Mm-hmm. Fifth goal was another absolute rocket from Aguirre, pretty similar to Blake Tracy's goal, 25 yards out, straight into the top corner. Was a lovely, lovely finish.
I think if you were to draw how a Ricky Aguirre goal should look, that is kind of, you know, that's picturesque, isn't it? That's what he's known for.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the build-up play, but I think he it was a long ball sort of over the top from the back, come to him. He good control on the ball, and then just pinged it top corner. He's one of those players that sort of a luxury player when you're 4-0 up.
Yeah,
you want a player like Ricky Aguirre on the pitch, but the moment things start going a bit the other way, and you're trying to dig deep and battle, I personally wouldn't have someone like Aguirre on the pitch. But
I mean, you say there he's a luxury player. Is he someone that you'd like to see in and around the first team squad a little bit more this season? Because I think I've said it multiple times over the last year. I genuinely think there's a player in there. I think he's a really, really good asset for the football club.
100%. He's like you said, that there's a player in there. We've seen glimpses of it throughout the past couple of seasons, but I think his trouble is just consistency. He's come on and just been, almost just not there, non-existent, and a player like the type of player he is, like tricky, good with his feet. You want him to stand out and score those type of goals that he did at Melksham.
Yeah.
But if he gets chances, if he gets game time, then you never know. We might see a more consistent Slick Rick. So yeah, that it was 5-0, finished 5-0. Just some notes I made.
Mm-hmm.
Played some great football. We lined up in a 3-5-2.
Yeah.
Both halves.
3-5-2 strikes me as the Michael Flynn formation. I'm not too sure about the rest of the panel, but when you think of a Michael Flynn football team, for some reason, I'm not even sure I've seen Newport at home to Swindon when Flynn was in charge, but to me, Michael Flynn is just 3-5-2 all over.
Yeah, 100%. You look at any of his sides, it's his probably main objective to go with, and we look good in it. If we go to the first half, starting lineup, obviously you had where are we? Hutton and Shade were sort of the wing backs, if you'd like.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if Michael Flynn sees Ty Shade as a wing back. Obviously, we've seen him at times. I think people thought when he came in, he was brought in as left back, didn't they?
Yeah.
I can't see it personally. I don't know if it works for you. I mean, Chris, I'll take your view on this, mate. Ty Shade, left back. What are your thoughts? Because I'm not sold.
I'm not sold on him as well
because he's right-footed. I'm a big advocate of your fullbacks need to be on that foot. Tomlinson's probably the anomaly in there because he's actually pretty much two-footed.
Yeah.
But generally, if you're going to play left back, you've got to be left-footed. Because it makes much easier to defend. Although obviously Shade's strength isn't in his defence. Mm-hmm. But I don't think fullback wingback is his position. I don't know what his position is because he's never plays the same place twice. But like Flynn says, there's a player in there. It's just finding that player because we saw it. It's so frustrating to watch him for a lot of last season, and I just think he's going to be better further up the pitch. But and he's not a centre forward, and he's not a fullback. I mean, ideally it would be a wide forward, but he hasn't sort of set the world alight so far. So this is going to be an interesting season for him to see if he can come up with a position, cement it, and show us a bit more than he did last season.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Flynn.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
Sorry, mate. Chris reminded there of the interview with Mike Flynn at the end of, I think it was after Melksham. Flynn said, "When I was at Walsall, it was a matter of necessity playing Shade at wing back. I had to do it as Tyree's can play in a lot of positions. He frustrates the life out of me, but if the penny actually drops, he has so much ability. His pace, he is powerful, he's tricky, and he can play off either foot. You're almost thinking I'm describing a Premier League player. The penny has to drop with him. I'm on him every single day. And if he's going to have if he's going to have to give a bit of tough love, if he's going to improve." I butchered that. Basically, he's saying he needs a bit of tough love to get the best out of Tyree Shade. But I mean, Chris said he doesn't know what position he'd be best utilised. I see Tyree Shade as a probably as a striker, to be fair. I think he's got a great right boot on him. I think his left foot is half decent too. He frustrates me watching him because sometimes you think, right, you're one on one, take your man on. Sometimes he does have a tendency to turn back and play it back. I think if he gets his head switched on and he really clicks with this formation and this team, I think he could be massive for us this season.
Yeah.
I think
Oh, sorry, Chris.
I was going to say his best performance this last season tended to be, when he came off the bench in the last 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
I thought one of them, actually at Rochdale, he put in a good shift when he came on. I think he actually made 2 of the goals for Charlie Austin there. And also even against Grimsby when he came on. And he sort of played in that, sort of like in the midfield, but when he gets the ball and he just runs with it forward. And it was made so much more of an impact there than when he did start. He didn't seem to have some great games once he started.
No.
So I don't know whether an impact sub is somewhere where we might get more out of him.
I think there's goals in him. I think he's got goals in him. As I say, he coming on those tired legs, I think he probably scares the opponent, or if a defender's been put up against him. I mean, the bloke's an absolute brick shithouse. He's massive and he's got pace in him, and he's quite tricky as well. If you're
his goal at Melksham was really, really good. He took on a couple players tricky with his feet, took it past the keeper, and was a composed finish. The one thing I would say about him last season was it was just decision making, which probably let him down at times. He'd almost do all the hard work and then just turn back. And I think once he gets his head around that, you both said then he's a good player. He's got all the attributes he needs. We saw glimpses of it in the Melksham game. I think again it's probably down to getting minutes, as many minutes as possible, and where was I? Oh yeah. The starting lineup as in the formation.
Yeah.
So yeah, Shade wing back with Lavinia wing back as well. And then a midfield the back three was Brewitt, Blake Tracy, and who's the other one?
Come on, Ellis.
Oh no, the other wing back wasn't Lavinia. It was a back three of Lavinia, Blake Tracy, and I've really
butchered this. Let's keep it. It was a 3-5-2, which is a Michael Flynn formation, and we'll move on.
Yeah, just forget it.
Mate, at the end of the day, it's a 5-0 win in pre-season. It is what it says on the tin. It's the main thing is obviously it's 90 minutes in the boys' legs.
Some positives I took from that. Mahoney was quick off his line.
Mm-hmm.
Proper sweeper keeper, was very vocal. Shouting, commanding it at the back line. I wasn't at the Supermarine game, but similar sort of words were said about him there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the young kiddies that come on. The young kiddies. I mean, they're the same age as me, so I don't know what I'm on about. But very, very, very positive. Jackson Brown, Anton Dworzak, Fox, and Sonny Hart. They all, they didn't stick out in a bad way. They fit in very well.
I think that's important for a youth team coming through. I think it's a great compliment to tell any youth team playing in a first team fixture that you didn't stick out. You looked comfortable. I think that's what you can ask. I think Jamie mentioned it earlier on that sometimes coming into a first team training session or a pre-season fixture or even a competitive fixture is they try a little too hard to impress.
Yeah.
So if they can stick in and just get their head down and play their own game and focus on doing the basics well, I think it's a great way to get off the start line, isn't it?
Yeah. Sonny Hart, sort of, I think he was on the right of the back three.
Mm-hmm.
He looked very comfortable on the ball. We played some long balls over the top at times. One thing I will say, it was a lot quicker build up play and more sort of direct than last season. I know everyone was going on about it last season. You know, sideways passes and just almost passing for the sake of it. The one thing I will say is Flynn definitely. You can tell that he wants to play a more direct style of football. We're making quick passes, but not unnecessary passes, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And we really utilised the wide players. Shade and Lavinia were not Lavinia, Hutton were very important in the first half in that wide play. We sort of played it around the back, diagonal ball over to the top to either Hutton or Shade, and then ping a ball in to Austin in the box. I think that's sort of what he's going for this season. And I like I said earlier, it's against Melksham, so take it with a pinch of salt. But we did look good in what we done. And yeah, I'm after that. I've got to say I'm looking forward to this season ahead.
I know you were waxing lyrical in the group chat during the game, weren't you? You were very much enjoying yourself. I mean,
it was good. And it was only a 2-minute walk home as well.
Oh, even better. You can get on the beers with that as well. Sorted.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it a 10-minute walk home after a few pints.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the next thing on my list I've got to chat about is obviously at 5 o'clock today, there were a few teasing tweets put out in the social media world. I think a lot of people were hoping for maybe something that didn't come. I think Carly, you put on the group chat at 5 o'clock that you'd seen the sort of leaks and the teasers. I think we were all hoping for a signing, weren't we? But didn't quite come. But I mean, the kit did come. The away kit did come. Carly, I mean, we'll take your opinion on the kit first. I'm a massive fan of it. What are your thoughts on the kit? I think it's maybe the best we've had in about 10 years.
Yeah, I agree with you. Lovely kit, lovely shirt. Very happy about it. I mean, I liked the third kit last season, the green kit. I really thought that was a good one. Although divided opinions on it, but this one, yeah, people were a little bit sort of unsure about the home kit with the roundabout print and everything. But I do think the away kit, it looks a bit special, doesn't it?
It does. I think, to be honest, the home kit is maybe a little bit of a grower. I've looked at it a few times now, and I've not got it in person. I will get it at some point, but I've heard from a lot of people that it does look a lot better in person too.
It does.
I like it. I do like it. I've had one of my clients already, Jack Cooper, bless him. He's come in for a haircut, sporting the new shirt, and to see it in the flesh on a fan, I thought it looked great. Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes we just try and find things to moan about, don't we?
Oh, that's Swindon's football club in a nutshell.
I'll tell you what, Joe.
Go on, Alice.
The all red kit is sexy. It looks right. It looks good. And to top it off, this sexy away kit come out today. And if I think is it possible to be in love with an away kit?
You can indeed. Absolutely, mate. No holds barred. I think as well, we could wear the most hideous kit that you've ever seen. End of the season, if your team is on the pitch lifting a trophy at the end of it, we all forget about it, don't we? So.
Oh yeah. In 10 years' time, it becomes a classic.
Exactly. But as I say, no signing today, unfortunately, at 5 o'clock. Did get the kit released, but
great shithousery from the football club.
It was quite special, wasn't it? I think I mean, we had a few meltdowns throughout the day, and I think that tops it off just beautifully.
Yeah. Just make a bloody signing. That's all I have to say.
But I will say, and I know it won't be a popular opinion, but I went to Supermarine, and as the players walked out, I thought, yeah, do you know what? We've not got too bad a squad there. There's a few players I mean, Hutton. I wasn't sure if we'd managed to keep hold of him. And Hepburn Murphy for me last season was our most improved player.
100%.
And when you see people like that come out, you think, do you know what? We have got some talent here. I know we want some more signings, and everyone's desperate for some more signings. And I'll probably get shot down in flames for saying this, but
I completely agree with you, Carly. I'm not going to shoot down in flames at all.
Yeah, Carly, I think you nailed that on the head, Carly. I put a tweet out earlier.
We've got some real talent there, and you said earlier about Mahoney, like the goalkeeper. He was so vocal, and it's been such a long time since I've heard anything like that. I think David Lucas maybe was probably the last time I heard somebody being that vocal.
Blimey.
Yeah. Bloody hell.
Yeah. I'm a long timer. I don't know. It's not all that bad, you know. It's not all that bad at all. There's some real talented players, and maybe Mike Flynn is seeing that in his training. He's thinking I mean, he's come out in the press, hasn't he, and said that he's not going to pay silly money for players. So to me, that doesn't sound like a desperate man. That sounds to me like somebody that wants to add one or two gems to a squad that he thinks maybe could be half decent.
Yeah, look, Carly, I think you've nailed that on the head there. I completely agree with you. I do think we've got a good side. It's not, in my opinion, at the minute, it's not promotion worthy, but I think we're only like 3 to 5 sort of decent signings away from a promotion side. I mean, look, you got Charlie Austin up top. You mentioned it, Carly. You got Hepburn Murphy. There's a player there. Blake Tracy. Clayton, Hutton.
Kane's got some great talent on him as
exactly.
well.
Look, exactly. There's loads of good players in this club, and I think with the right manager, they're only going to learn and develop as well. We saw it in times in last season. This team can play football. This team can score goals, and I just think with the right signings, this could be a real good squad. But the one thing I would say is patience, which I know is hard, and a lot of Swindon fans do not have.
I don't think a lot of our fans have that, unfortunately.
I think if we could bring in like a commanding centre half who can organise and run that back line, and a holding midfielder who can get stuck in, that will make a massive difference to this squad. We've got some talent in and around that, but those are the two glaring holes. We could probably do with a hold-up striker like a Josh Davis and Tyrese Simpson type. But I think, with those three, that suddenly makes a massive difference to this squad. But that's the spine, and I think that's where we need to focus. But there's still 3 weeks, so Flynn's got the time to assess what he's got and not panic. But, if we're in this same situation 2 weeks down the line, I think we look at it a bit different. But for now, I don't think we need to be panicking too much.
No, I think, as I said, I've said on socials today, I think, I can completely understand, in a sense, the cause for panic or the anxiety of not signing players. Look, I get it. We all like new shiny things, don't we? We all want a new shiny toy. But this is genuinely, I'm trying to think back to previous pre-seasons. I can't think of a squad or a season where we've had so many players kept on and retained. I'm thinking maybe 13-14, the year of like Nile Rangers season. The season after that, we had the majority of the same squad, but we've added a few sort of pieces of real quality, which ultimately led us to the playoffs. And the playoff final didn't go well, of course, but it was a successful season nevertheless. I can't think of a season where we've had so many retained. So, there's not too much in the way of panic on my end at the minute. I mean, Malcolm, I'd be interested to take your point of view on this, mate. Where are you in terms of panic stations at the minute with signings?
Well, I have to be the club's kind of how do you say?
No,
Can you hear
Malcolm.
me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate. Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear him. Sorry.
Ellis, you're ruining the show.
I had that problem earlier.
Sorry.
I couldn't hear Carly. I have to go back out, go back in. Yeah. So my job really is to be the how do you say it? The club's happy clapper, as in my my other job. Personally,
Quite literally.
But personally, kind of glass half full anyway. Yeah, I agree with Chris when he said kind of we need to get maybe a couple of signing ins, but I'm not worrying, I'm not panicking. I've got trust in Flynn. He's an old style manager. He's not going to panic. So, you know, we've got to just put our trust in that he's going to get those players in and, you know, just go with it. We can't change things as fans, but yeah, no, I'm really positive, looking forward to it. I love the kits. The home kit's looking so much better after my printing from yesterday, by the way, if anyone's seen it. And the away kit, wow, that's just you know, something else in it. So yeah, it's positives all around from me. So sorry if you was looking for anything different, but I can't be. That's just me.
No, I completely understand, mate. I think if I ask your opinion on this topic, we might get a bit of a different view. I mean, obviously you've seen many a season, many a pre-season, many a transfer. Where's your head at with the current sort of state of transfers at Swindon Town?
Right. Well, probably about a week ago, I was tearing my hair out because every player that was coming up available, we should sign him. We should sign him. I'm now of the opinion that you got to look at it pragmatically. Now, not all the best players will get snapped up in the first week of the window. There will be these certain players that are holding out for loads of money and they want, you know, get the best deal they can money wise, and they'll hold out. And funnily enough, coming close to the end of the window, they're still on the shelf and they're thinking, oh, sod it, you know, I'm not going to get paid as much as I thought.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll still be quality at the end of the season. The other thing is the pyramid. We're at the bottom. All the other big clubs will sort their players out, and then we get the pickings from there. So there's no point in panicking and whinging and whining about whether or not this player we went back to Forest Green Rovers. So be it. Was he offered a contract? We don't know. Did he turn us down? We don't know. We'll never know. So why moan about it? There's no point.
No.
Trust in the manager. Trust in the manager. You know, every season, I'll give him 10 games, see how we are. See how we are at Christmas. If we're not doing any good, then you can have a moan and a bitch and a whine. But to moan about stuff you can't moan about, it just beggars belief in my respect. So I'm on the fence of let's wait and see. Give the bloke a chance. Let him do what he has to do.
Daz, I'll give you a couple names. Doyle, Fodringham, Paul Benson. Those three players were signed after August. You know, three top class players that arguably helped us, you know, in our success in that season.
And that's it. So I'm not bothered. I'm not worried. I think let Flinny do what he wants to do when he wants to do it. And the other thing is that's 3 weeks less wages to pay him as well.
But yeah, fair enough. I'm not too sure that. Yeah. I think you go 3 weeks down the line as well. I think by the start of the season, I will put it on the line right now, we will 100% have new signings in the football club. I understand, obviously, you ideally want them in sooner rather than later, just to get them integrated into the squad, you know, having some training sessions under their belt, working on tactics, playing with their teammates, getting familiar with each other. But I mean, it will come in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll see players coming in. It'll happen. We have got a squad that we know at least can compete in this division. You know, regardless of where you think they're competing, but they can compete. They know each other. They've been together for a year now. I'm just the way that I would look at it is, you know, panic stations, maybe not yet. Give it 2 weeks. I might be pressing the red button, but I don't think we'll get there. Yeah, I mean, I've just seen the time. We are at an hour and a half, which is what we were aiming for the show to sort of look like. Is there anything that anyone would like to sort of bring up for the end of the show? Anything that is on your chest once you want to get out?
No.
No? Brilliant. Anyone else got anything on their chest?
I just want to say that I've got my ticket for Colchester and I can't wait.
That is the perfect way to end the Tom Broadbent Lounge, Carly. Thank you very much for that.
Even though it's in the middle of nowhere.
Also, can I just say, massive well done to Carly. First show, absolutely smashed it.
Oh, thank
100%.
you. That's very kind.
We look forward to ruining your Wednesday nights with our horrendous patter for the foreseeable, Carly.
Can't wait.
Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to the rest of my panel too. Obviously, Jamie Russell, big thanks to Jamie for coming on. I know he's a busy man, and he's taken an hour out of his evening to come out and have a chat with us, which is really appreciated. As always, the Tom Broadbent Lounge is an independent Twitter space. We are not affiliated with Swindon Town Football Club, nor Tom Broadbent himself. So any views expressed this evening are not representative of their own. We will see you next Wednesday. We will back on Wednesdays next week. Thursdays are not our evening. So thank you very much. Have a lovely week. Come on, you Reds.
Cheers, guys.